There is a persistent myth that the Roman Empire collapsed overnight, that a horde of barbarians breached the gates one dark afternoon, and antiquity instantly faded to black. The truth is much slower and much more dangerous. The empire was eaten alive from the inside out. Decades of compromised laws, deepening political corruption, and a hopelessly fractured society eroded the foundation long before any foreign army arrived. The cracks became institutional policy in 330 AD. Emperor Constantine looked at the city of Rome and saw a decaying, vulnerable liability. He packed up the government and built a brand new capital 1,000 miles to the east. He chose the ancient site of Byzantium on the Bosphorus Strait. It was perfectly defensible choke point where Europe meets Asia, allowing the new city of Constantinople to control the flow of global trade. Moving the capital physically shifted the empire's center of gravity eastward. The wealth, the military power, and the future all relocated. The original city of Rome was left behind to wither. Culturally, the old world was also dying. Emperor Julian's desperate attempt to revive the ancient pagan gods failed entirely. By the late 4th century, Christianity was mandated as the sole official state religion. The temples closed, and a 1,000-year-old eternal flame was extinguished. In 395 AD, Emperor Theodosius divided the empire between his two sons. This temporary separation hardened into a permanent fault line. The eastern half inherited the wealth, trade routes, and fortified cities. The western half inherited impossible-to-defend borders and a hollowed-out economy. This division severed the West from the wealthy tax base and massive grain shipments of Egypt. It left the Western administration to manage a crumbling frontier with fewer resources, initiating a slow, agonizing slide toward the edge. Militarily, the West made a fatal calculation. Unable to recruit enough citizen soldiers, they outsourced their defense to Germanic barbarian federates. They handed their borders over to heavily armed mercenaries who held zero loyalty to the Roman state. Far to the east, the nomadic Huns were sweeping through Central Asia, displacing entire nations. Desperate Germanic tribes fled the Huns and flooded across Roman borders, seeking refuge and violently carving out their own territories. In August 410 AD, Alaric's Visigoths breached the Eternal City. For the first time in 800 years, a foreign enemy held Rome. From Bethlehem, St. Jerome lamented, "The city which had taken the whole world was itself taken," as the idea of Roman invincibility shattered. The actual end was pathetic. By 476 AD, the Western emperor was a teenage boy named Romulus Augustulus, a complete figurehead. A barbarian warlord simply deposed him, packed up the imperial regalia, and sent it to Constantinople. When institutions fail to protect their own borders, real power defaults to whoever controls the weapons. That quiet deposition in 476 plunged Western Europe into the Dark Ages, splintering a unified continent into warring kingdoms. But the Roman state did not disappear. It survived in the East. What we now call the Byzantine Empire endured behind the impenetrable, multi-layered defenses of the Theodosian walls in Constantinople. In 527 AD, Emperor Justinian took the throne with a magnificent obsession to reconquer the lost Western territories. In a massive, bloody campaign, his generals swept through North Africa, Italy, and Spain, pulling the Roman world briefly back together. Back in Constantinople, Justinian commissioned an architectural miracle to project the empire's endless wealth and ambition. The Hagia Sophia featured a dome so impossibly large it appeared suspended from heaven by a golden chain. Then the bacteria arrived. In 541 AD, the first recorded outbreak of the bubonic plague swept through the streets. It killed 50 million people, wiping out half the capital's population and crippling the military supply chains. Justinian overextended his military to reclaim the West, only to watch his tax base vanish into mass graves. His reconquered territories were lost almost as quickly as they were gained, proving that no army can hold a continent when the population required to settle and defend it has been hollowed out. After the plague, the East entered a slow, agonizing contraction. Vast territories were lost to rapid Islamic conquests. Later, their own Christian allies betrayed them during the Fourth Crusade, looting Constantinople with staggering savagery. By 1453, the empire was reduced to a single city. 7,000 Byzantine defenders stared down an Ottoman war machine of 80,000 men, commanded by Sultan Mehmed II. Mehmet unleashed a technological terror. A colossal bronze cannon battered the ancient stones for 53 days. Walls that had repelled armies for a millennium finally shattered under the weight of modern artillery. When the Ottomans poured through the breach, the physical Roman state ceased to exist. But the ideas preserved within those walls for over 1,000 years had already escaped, scattering westward to seed the modern world. Justinian's massive codification of Roman jurisprudence laid the exact foundation for global civil law. The concepts you rely on today, due process, the right to a legal defense, the strict rules of property law, are explicitly Roman ideas. When the American founding fathers drafted a new government, they aggressively studied the Roman Republic. They deliberately copied the Senate and the system of checks and balances, desperate to construct a framework that could resist the gravity of tyranny. They embedded this homage directly into the physical infrastructure. Modern Capitol buildings project power by mirroring classical facades, literally tracing their authority back to the Capitoline Hill. Throughout the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church acted as the ultimate preservation vessel. Monasteries saved Latin texts from oblivion, while the papacy mimicked Roman administrative structures to maintain order across Europe. Rome proves that no society is immune to its own decay. Hubris, deep political corruption, and citizens abandoning the common good for personal ambition will hollow out any superpower. The Romans built something that lasted thousands of years. We inherited their blueprint, but we also inherited their exact vulnerabilities. The only question left is how long our own institutions will last.